Hey everyone, it's Chelsea from the Allen County Public Library, and in this video, part 2 of our knit along series, I'll be showing you how to do the stockinette stitch to make the body of our hat and how to do a knit two together to decrease and finish our hats. So if you're ready, let's get started. Alright, so we are ready to get started with this week's section of our project. I have finished the ribbing. As you can see here, we've got our 6 rows of ribbing, and it's really kind of made an accordion effect. If you've never done ribbing before, that's kind of what you have created. It's very stretchy. That'll be good to stretch over a baby's head. So we are now ready to go into the stockinette portion of our pattern. And the stockinette portion I've discussed before in my other videos. It's very simple. So we will start by just knitting this first row. And it is just straightforward. This part is not going to be too difficult. I hope not anyways. And if it is a little challenging, it's just going to be some practice. And we will go through and knit our first row. And if you aren't familiar with what the stockinette stitch is, it's not simply just knitting. It's not a straightforward thing, but you will switch back and forth between knitting and purling, similar to what we did with the rib, but instead of within the row switching back and forth, you're going to switch every other row. And it creates a very flat, even looking piece of work. So you'll go through your 40 stitches here. And when you get to the end, you will simply flip your work and do a purl row. It's one of the things I like about this hat pattern. It's very simple, not too complicated. It's great for beginners and more experienced people alike. So we're at the end and we'll flip. And you can see we're ready for purl because we've got all of our bumps here. That's showing that we're on the purl side. We'll keep the yarn in the front and we'll just go through this row purling. Now I'm not going to show you the 5 inches of this that I'm going to do. I'll join you at the end of the 5 inches, but I do want to show you at the end of this row kind of what you should be looking for. But you will continue doing this stockinette pattern until you have your work measuring 5 inches, and that is from the cast on, which is right here, to it'll be until this point of your work right here. So when you have 5 inches between those 2 points, you will be ready for the next portion, which I'll show you in just a second. Almost done. Okay, so we're at the end again, and again you'll just flip the work and you'll start knitting on this row. But I want to show you just kind of what that looks like. If you have forgotten, or maybe you've never done this before, you can see the transition here between our rib stitch that was kind of made this accordion, where they kind of come together and stretch out, and then where we've done our stockinette stitch. It's going to just look very uniform. And your work might kind of widen out a little bit as you are working in your stockinette stitch, but that's normal, so don't be alarmed by that, because you kind of want this part to be stretchier, if that makes sense. Okay, so you'll keep doing this until you measure 5 inches from right here at your cast on to right here at the end of your work, right below your needle here. And when you get to that point, we'll be ready to decrease. All right, so I've now got my hat, and it is now 5 inches from the cast on edge to the end of my work here, and I'm ready to start decreasing. So your instructions tell you to end with a purl row. So I've just finished doing my purl, and I'm ready to flip my work to the knit side or the right side, and we are ready to start decreasing. So for the first row, we are going to knit 2 and then do a knit 2 together across the whole thing. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we do our knit 2 first. So we've knitted 2 stitches, and then the knit 2 together is very simple. We are going to go through 2 stitches as if to knit. So it's the same stitch, you're just going through 2 stitches. So we're taking these 2 stitches and turning them into 1 stitch. So we have just lost 1 stitch in our row. We'll do a couple more of these to show you. So knit 2 and then knit 2 together. So we're picking up both stitches with our needle, and then we'll knit just as you would with any other stitch. And we have taken those 2 stitches and turned it into 1 stitch. Again, knit 2 together, or knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 together. And you will repeat that all the way down the row. So we're going from 40 stitches here, and at the end of this row, if you'll count back, you should have 30 stitches. So knit 2 and knit 2 together. All right, so I just finished my purl row after our first decreasing row, and we're ready to do the second decreasing row, which you will do a knit 1, knit 2 together across the whole row. So this is very similar to our last row, but I just want to show you just so you really understand. So we did our first knit stitch, and then we'll knit 2 together, do a knit stitch, and knit 2 together. So we are now going to go from 30 stitches to 20 stitches. Okay, and you're just going to continue this one all the way down, and then you'll purl the next row. All right, and now you're ready for our last decreasing row, the last row of this hat, and we are simply going to knit 2 together for every stitch. So we are having the stitches that we have on here, we're going from 20 stitches to 10 stitches. So knit 2 together for every single stitch. This part is the easier part because you're going so much faster. Instead of 40 stitches, you're down to 10 stitches. I love that part of working on a project where you work so hard and then it just gets easier and easier until you're done. Okay. And that is where we'll stop for this week. And you will be ready to cinch up these stitches and sew your hat together so it's ready to go. All right, so there you have it. That is the end of our lesson for today. You've learned how to do the stockinette stitch and you have decreased to the end of your hat. You're ready for next week's video where I will show you how to sew that seam together and weave in those ends of your hat. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.